Implicit Revelations Case Study Notes. I want to share some insights about the concept of abstract associations of experiential elements. So the body-mind has all this different data, and it's organized in different ways. You can look at it from the perspective of the neurobiological social engagement system, where there are different roles that have different subconscious priorities of navigation. This references the polyvagal theory. You can explore it in terms of how the body-mind associates with itself, and from that foundation, then it's associating with all components in reality in certain ways. And then there's explicit and implicit pieces of information, including conscious and unconscious memories, and information in the left and the right brain hemispheres. And the way that that information is stored, its content, and the way that that information is connected, the connectivity, is determining a lot of this body-mind navigation stuff. And then there's data from every year of life that has information from experience, and then depending on how that information is connecting is going to affect the body-mind data and its organization of navigational patterns and regulatory protocols. And so through my Implicit Revelations case study, I've invested over 20,000 hours in independently developing brand new ways to understand and heal body-minds while liberating and expanding consciousness. And my journey has been beyond miraculous. So if you're new here, you haven't explored the work that I do or the journey that's led to it, please explore all my different libraries and stuff. My known documentary series, Becoming Known through Implicit Revelations. Just the whole journey is very miraculous. And so among all the concepts that I've developed and now share in my work is the Abstracting Navigational Associations Method. And in this method, it can be used in a bunch of different ways to understand personal experience in new ways. And then there's other ways to apply it where you can transform it. And so the method itself has dozens of applications. It's not like it's like one thing. It's this concept that has a bunch of different applications. And so the method itself is very widespread. It's not a singular pathway where it's like, here's the method and here's how you do it. It's like this concept, and there's like a bunch of different ways to apply the method in different scenarios depending on what the intention is. You know, if you're trying to understand a certain experience, if you're trying to transform a certain region of body mind, like there's so many different possible applications of it, which is very exciting how infinite the potential of it is. And so the body mind has this organization throughout trillions of energetic pathways that carry abstract associations, okay? Abstract associations of every experiential element, real or imagined, that has ever come into the awareness of self or beyond the awareness of self and background stimulus even at any point in life since infancy. All that data is stored in the body-mind. And just depending on the content and connectivity and the activation in terms of relevancy for navigational potentials, that information might be more prominent than others. But it's all still there. And so the texture of that blanket that you felt when you were 8 months young as an infant, that data, the data of the texture of that blanket is stored in your body-mind. Okay, so it's just like really miraculous. When we think of experiential elements, a lot of times we think of obvious stimulus. What you see, what you hear, what you smell, what you taste, what you touch. Okay? And that's like the entry level for understanding this. Is like, okay, the body-mind has data of cats. And then the body-mind has data of certain cats that you've had as pets. And then the body-mind has data of cats as like a general animal, understanding how to recognize any cat that isn't your cat. And then the body-mind has data in relation with cat of, you know, fluffy or soft or long hair, short hair, or, you know, white or tan, or, you know, calico, or, you know, blue eyes or green eyes, or, you know, this cat is named this. And it has all of this data in relation with the concept of cat. A cat, the animal of cat. And then it has data of flowers, okay? And so you smell a flower, and there's data inside of the body-mind. There's data inside of the body-mind of flowers. And then there's the concept of flowers, but then there's the concept of roses. And there's the ability to recognize roses. And then there's the concept of what kind of flowers you like smelling the most. I really love the smell of this flower. I really love the smell of this flower. This flower feels really strong. And then when you go to smell those flowers, you're able to recognize and navigate the experience of smelling flowers because of the activation of information in your body-mind. And then there's other flowers you're like, wow, that looks really beautiful, and the symmetry and geometry of that flower is amazing, but I don't like the smell of it. Okay, right? So there's all these abstract associations, and in that one, there's what you see of the flower, there's what you smell of the flower, and maybe there's what you touch of it. You're like, wow, the flower petals are really soft, or oh, there's thorns on the stem of that flower, right? And so the body-mind has all of this data of abstract associations of experiential elements. Abstract associations of experiential elements. Experiential elements. So the first thing is the obvious, what you see, what you hear, your ability to recognize the sound of crickets or frogs or a bat or an owl or a dog barking or coyotes barking, and to differentiate sound. How do you know that those are coyotes howling and not just a neighborhood dog barking? How do you know that those are crickets chirping and not frogs that are singing? How do you, right? Okay. And then there's differentiation between stuff, the ability to recognize and resonate with different components of reality. There's like the self, right? And then there's the associations of the self with the self, and then the associations of the self with all these other components of reality, and it's all happening through body-mind navigation as consciousness is individualizing itself within the human form. Okay? And so then there's what you hear, what you see, what you smell, what you taste, you know. When you go to taste something, assuming that you have the physical ability to taste, assuming that that physical ability is there, it might not be strong, but if it's there, then it's relevant. You go to taste something, and let's say that you're eating a box of different chocolates, and they all look the same, and they're all just chocolate, right? Like you look at the ingredients, it's just sugar. But somehow, each one has a different taste. You're like, wow, this one tastes like coffee. Wow, this one tastes like raspberries. How are you able to recognize and resonate with it? How are you able to associate with it? You're picking up something that is chocolate, and it looks like chocolate, and it looks exactly the same as all these other chocolates, but when you go to taste it, right, so what you're seeing isn't different. When you go to taste it, you're like, wow, this one tastes like coffee, this one tastes like raspberries, this one tastes like, right? And so then there's the taste, and then there's abstract associations of every experiential element of anything and everything you've ever tasted in your entire life. And maybe you ate something 25 years ago and haven't had it since, but then you eat something and you're like, oh my God. And suddenly you're back in that time period. Some part of you is back in that time period because the information from that experience is being activated beyond awareness and projected into reality. And there are parts of the self here now in the present moment experience of something that's never happened before. But there are also parts of the self in body-mind data being activated and projected into reality to navigate the moment. So then there's this renewed connection with those parts of the self because the relevant information in the body-mind that they're associated with is being sparked to navigate the moment. And then you have a connection with parts of yourself that maybe you haven't felt fully connected with in a long time. Okay? And so the list goes on and on and on. Like I could literally go through thousands of examples. Anything you've ever seen, smelled, tasted, heard, or touched, okay? Different textures. Let's say that you were like in gymnastics when you were a child or something, or, you know, put a parallel example in or whatever. And maybe you had like a leotard and it was really velvety, okay? The fabric was really velvety. And there was a very specific sensation of that fabric. And it was only a fabric that was really touched or felt during that season of life. It's not a fabric that's like on your like traditional everyday clothes, maybe not necessarily. But then like 20, 30, 40, 50 years later, you touch a fabric and immediately you're reconnected with that part of your inner child because the data that they're associated with has been activated by stimulus and projected into reality beyond awareness to navigate the moment. And then suddenly you're like, wow, I really want this fabric because it helps me feel connected with a part of me that I haven't felt connected with. Or maybe you avoid that fabric because you don't know how to be associated with your inner child, and that can be triggering if you're not ready for that sense of reunification with yourself. Okay, so there's endless examples, right? So we have a general concept of experiential elements. All of these things, the velvet fabric, the taste of coffee, the taste of raspberries, and the taste of having that flavor in chocolate versus actually eating raspberries or drinking coffee, okay? Abstract associations of experiential elements, content of those abstract concepts, and then connectivity to interpret reality, to interpret these experiential elements as the body-mind assists consciousness in navigating life on Earth. Okay, but then the concept of abstract associations of experiential elements goes into like a mind-boggling realm of infinity. Okay? As if everything you've ever seen isn't enough. Like that right there is like, thousands and millions and billions of things. Every sound you've ever heard. Every sound you've ever heard. Every song you've ever heard. Every style of music you've ever heard. Every animal noise you've ever heard. Every person's voice you've ever heard. Even strangers talking at parks. Every sound you have ever heard created information in your body-mind. Everything you've ever felt. Dry skin, soft skin, certain types of clothing. Oh, that itchy tag at the back of your shirt. Oh, that really, really lusciously soft sweater. The grass on your feet. Oh, that grass is really soft. Oh, that grass is pokey. I got a scratch. Every single thing you've ever sensed through sensory data, ever, in your whole life. Since you were a baby, literally, before the body-mind was creating conscious explicit memories in relation with a sense of self, it was gathering information about the abstract associations of experiential elements in terms of sensory processing and the feeling of experience, stored exclusively in the right brain hemisphere. Beyond awareness, that data from infancy is still there. I only got to know about that in a profound degree because I once experienced independent activity of data from infancy during chronic dissociative age regression, and I got to study the information of the body-mind in a revolutionary way. So, okay, existence is mind-blowing, especially mine. Okay, so there's all these abstract associations of experiential elements, but beyond just the immediate individuation of sensory processing, there's abstract concepts. Okay? If you're driving at night, there's all the abstract associations of experiential elements of each sense. That's obvious. You feel yourself sitting in a car. You feel your hands on a steering wheel. You hear whatever music is playing, or maybe quietness, or maybe the breeze if your windows are open, or maybe other noises in the city, or maybe cricket and animal sounds out in nature. There's whatever you smell, maybe that car air freshener that's in there, or some yummy stuff that you just bought, or maybe there's not much going on, or maybe some smell that drifts past your cracked window or something. Okay, this is an example of driving at night, okay? What you smell, what you taste, maybe you're sucking on a piece of candy, or you just ate something 20 minutes ago and there's still a lingering taste, or maybe you're thirsty and there's a feeling of dryness, or maybe you just had water and there's a feeling of refreshment, okay? So it's not just obvious taste, but also feeling dryness, or feeling quenched. What you hear, what you taste, or whatever's going on in here, what you smell, what you feel, and then what you see. Okay, and then what you see is, the relevancy of what street you're driving on, and what things you're passing, and maybe what cars you see driving by, and maybe the city you're looking out at, or the hills in the background. Not much can be seen because you're driving at night, so it's just kind of what's immediately in front of you and maybe some silhouettes in the distance. Okay, so there's the obvious individual pieces of stimulus that are a part of the sensory processing. But then there's more than that when we're looking at abstract associations of experiential elements, and this is specifically when considering the application of my original techniques through the abstracting Navigational Associations Method, which is a series of different potential applications, not just one method. So maybe I should actually rename it. It's not just one method. It is, but there's like dozens, if not hundreds, of applications where you can take something you're experiencing and understand it in new ways. Or if you're trying to transform something, there's so many different angles you can come in at and use this method to actually rewire stuff. I've used it to recover specific memories that I wanted to recover from earlier years of life. And I use it to rewire independent memory centers beyond awareness without looking at the data directly. And so those are just two potential applications. And I also use them in everyday awareness understanding in my own personal life to understand what might be causing certain navigational projections and how parts of myself might be experiencing life beyond awareness, because I'm still in a process of reunification. I think it's a lifelong journey to get to know every part of yourself. And, the more that you awaken to the infinite nature of your soul, and you're not just associating with the human experience and what you've known as your human self, then the journey of reunification is really infinite. Because you're not just reconnecting with parts of yourself from all those years of human experience, you're reconnecting with an infinite essence that goes beyond anything you've known in the human form. It goes beyond any experience you've ever had. It goes beyond any projection of reality that's ever been placed before you automatically. It goes beyond that. And when you go deeper into inner child liberation and reunifying with the foundation of yourself, that also is a really deep, intimate, infinite journey, because, there were parts of the self as a child who would run around laughing with joy, and every cell of their body felt free. And sometimes there are parts of ourselves like that from the foundation of our life that we can't be somatically connected with now, because there were things that happened that made you feel like you couldn't just run around laughing with joy and feeling free in every cell of your body. And so reunifying with ourselves is really a lifelong journey, and there's a lot of different layers to it. Okay, so that's how I've been using it in my own personal journey. But the application of this method and all of its different potentials is really, really infinite. It's also used in my Healing Journey Magic multi-month personalized program. It's a 6-month program specifically to resolve an implicit health challenge. And this is one of the most profound ways to use it, because you can really get deep into understanding what's causing and activating chronic implicit health challenges. And that's not just like a mental health battle or something. That is one potential, but it could just be any chronic experience of emotions, or any chronic experience of habits, or any chronic experience of relationships, or any chronic perception in how you associate with your own body, or anything that isn't just like the best of 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 the way that you want to experience life. It doesn't have to be this like, really intensive like mental health challenge where you're like, I need to fix this thing going on in my mind or something. Like there's thousands, that is like a potential, but there's like thousands of different ways it can actually be really subtle and maybe not so obvious. You might not even think that it's something you need to address, but then you find out there's a potential to experience life in better ways, and you're like, whoa, maybe I should look into this. So any implicit health challenge. It's also used in my treasure trove application, including the treasure mapping, and this is through one-time sessions or multi-month personalized programs as well, 3 to 6 months. When we're treasure mapping stuff, we can use it to understand any experience and how the stimulus in the moment is activating body-mind data, and then it can be used to rewire that body-mind data. And it can also be used in marathon journeys, and so there's just a lot of different potential for its application in my own personal work that I share and beyond that, truly. Okay, so in this example of driving at night, there's everything that's obvious: what you see, what you hear, what you taste, what you smell, what you're touching. But then there's the abstract associations of experiential elements that are much less obvious. And this goes into like concepts of reality. If you are driving at night by yourself, then the body-mind will actually activate abstract associations from every experience you've ever driven alone by yourself at night. And it's going to project emotions, feelings, and sensations, and action patterns, approach avoidance tendencies, habits, responses. I think those are the new ones. And responses into the body-mind beyond awareness. And so, for example, if you're like driving at night and you randomly start feeling something, or you randomly get this impulse or inclination to do something, that's the body-mind experiencing the projection of navigation beyond awareness because of how abstract associations of experiential elements are stimulating that data to navigate the moment. And then if you're driving from somewhere by yourself at night, anytime you've ever driven from that place by yourself at night, it's going to be activated beyond awareness and projected into reality to navigate the moment. And anytime you're driving to somewhere, it could be a specific physical place, or it could be driving to meet a specific person, like you're meeting a specific person at a certain place, even though that place isn't somewhere you normally meet them. Okay, there's associations of that person. There's also associations of the place. Okay, so if you're going and you're driving to a person or place, a thing, an experience that you've been to before, driving alone at night, then anytime you've ever had that experience before, created information in the body-mind, and then it's being stimulated in that moment and activated and projected into reality beyond awareness to navigate the moment. And this goes back into your whole life, because the body-mind doesn't understand time, it understands navigational patterns. And that's what memories are. Memories aren't just, oh, I remember that one time this happened. That's like this much out of like an ocean of memories. Most memories are unconscious, and their purpose is holding these navigational patterns, especially of the things I just mentioned. Emotions, feelings, somatic sensations, approach avoidance tendencies, action patterns, habits, responses. Okay, those are all things that are stored in unconscious memories. And so even if those were experiences 10 or 20 years ago, that data is here right now being activated beyond awareness, stimulated by the scenario where you're driving alone at night to a certain place or to meet a certain person or from somewhere or whatever. And so even data from decades ago is being activated beyond awareness and projected into reality in the present moment. And every part of self that was in those experiences is then activated. And then this goes into a whole other topic that I'll explore another time, but where are parts of consciousness? Okay, there's 6 levels of reality in terms of the infinite experiencing the finite. And so we have infinite awareness, and then we have parts of the self. I'll go into this another time. And then we have body, mind, data in terms of the finite. Okay, 3 infinite, 3 finite, and then they merge and connect and have certain kinds of relationships when consciousness is in human experience. We have body, mind, data, projections of personal experience, and stimulus on the earth plane. Okay? And so the infinite and the finite are constantly interacting as consciousness encounters its own projection of self in human form within this earthly experience. If parts of the self are in the body-mind wiring, rather than being unified with the self, then the body-mind will not have an ability to know that the present moment is not the same thing as the projections of navigation. Because the self will be in the projections of the navigation and not in the present moment. If parts of the self are in the personal experience, in the body-mind wiring, in the flow of the stimulus of earthly experience, then the parts of the self are not unified with the self. And in this particular instance, then, the self, these parts of the self, these aspects of self essence, are not in a present moment. They're actually in navigational projections in the body-mind. They're experiencing past moments being projected through body-mind navigation instead of fully being in the present moment. That's never happened before. And so in every moment we can ask, as I smell this flower, as I eat this bite of food, as I do this breath work, as I do this yoga practice, as I go swimming, as I go walking, whatever it is that you're doing, as I'm unloading the dishwasher, whatever it is you're doing, you can take a breath and say, how much of me is actually here right now? How much of me is actually experiencing this present moment without any projections from the body-mind? And how pure can this present moment be without any projections? And how deeply can I connect with myself through the purity of that present moment? And so when we're looking at abstract associations of experiential elements, it's everything you see, hear, taste, touch, smell. And the stimulus in present moments is activating information in the body-mind beyond awareness to navigate that moment. And every past moment of experience you've ever come into contact with anything that has any abstract association with that experiential element in any capacity is projected beyond awareness to try and navigate the moment. But we never, ever, 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 ever consciously perceive those projections, which means parts of the self are experiencing that projection beyond awareness. Only approximately 0.02% of inner realities is what we can immediately perceive and be aware of. And that's a concept that's developed through my Implicit Revelations Case Study. And so there's not just abstract associations of the experiential elements of each individual sensory experience, but there's also abstract energetic concepts of that location, that place, that person, that type of experience. Okay, maybe movie theater, for example. You think movie theater, maybe the body-mind remembers, I remember the movie theater from that mall during that season of life, and I remember the movie theater from this other mall during that season of life, and I remember the movie theater in that parking lot in this other city during this season of life. And it's not just individual things of what was seen or what was heard, it's concepts. These places are concepts. And they have their own energetic data in the body-mind. And so if you think, or not if you think, but if you're in a situation, because you can think about it and it's not necessarily going to stimulate it, okay? That's also actually an important thing to know. When you try to think about something in the mind, there's techniques you can use, but it's not always going to actually stimulate the information. If you're actually in the actual experience of that stimulus, it's automatic, and you can't not have the body mind project that information beyond awareness. But if you just try to think about that stimulus, it's not necessarily going to do that. So if you are, not just thinking, but if you are driving alone at night, the body mind is activating information from any time you've ever driven alone at night, even if that's been like 65 years. All that data is being activated beyond awareness and projected into reality, so that your body mind is like, oh, yeah, I know how to drive alone at night. I've done this before. But that feeling is automatic because the body mind is navigating it based on all this data beyond awareness. And so there's just like this whole other layer of the abstract associations of experiential elements beyond each individual sensory data. There's concepts of people, places, experiences, and emotions, and movement patterns. Like, the list just goes on and on and on and on, and it's infinite. Every place you've ever been, even if it was like one place, one time, 35 years ago, if you were to go randomly be in that same location, your body mind would be like, hey, I've been here before. Not literally, you're not going to hear your body mind say a voice, but you might get a sense of familiarity or like curiosity, like, oh, I actually recognize this place. I never thought I'd been here before or something, okay? And so when we're using the abstracting navigational associations method, it can be used beyond just individuations of stimulus. That's the starting point because it's obvious and much easier to work with. But then it goes deeper, and there's these concepts. And so let's say, for example, that you're going to meet somebody and you're in a certain place and you have a certain emotional experience during that time where you're meeting this person in this place. Odds are that the emotion had nothing to do with that experience. Odds are that something about the stimulus of being in that place or meeting with this type of person, okay? And so concepts is not just specific individual people, but it could be concepts of people, like authority figures versus peers versus like, someone in a workplace versus someone in an educational system, right? Someone you go to school with, or a teacher from a school, or someone you work with, or someone you're employed by, okay? There's also concepts of people, not just individual people, and concepts of places. There's specific locations, but then there's also the concepts of them, like the concept of wide open country versus the concept of a big city with really tall buildings, okay? And so then there's all these concepts of stuff. And so if you go and you are meeting with this person at this place and you have a certain emotion come up, or a somatic sensation, or a gut feeling, or a certain impulse, like you go to order something and maybe you're confused about what to order and you can't choose, or maybe you choose something that you never normally choose and you don't know why. Okay, so like seemingly little things, right? Odds are that thing that happened, that emotion, that somatic sensation, that choice, that whatever, had nothing to do with your experience in that moment, and everything to do with how some concept of abstract associations of experiential elements that was happening there was actually activating data in the body mind beyond awareness. And maybe there was an experience from like 15 years ago or something where that pattern of navigation, that pattern of emotion or sensation or approach avoidance tendency or choosing something you wouldn't normally choose now, but it was normal for you to choose then, or not knowing what to choose because your updated navigation wasn't being activated and this like information from a long time ago was, and then your brain was like, what? Okay. Odds are that thing you're experiencing there is actually coming from this body-mind data over here, where some concept of the abstract associations of experiential elements, which could be that type of person or that type of place or that specific person or the time of day it was or the state of regulation your nervous system was in. Like, there's so many different ways to look at it. But some abstract association of internal and or external experiential element activated this region of the body-mind that then navigated the moment. Okay, and then, using this to understand life and then using it to transform it, right? Like, if you're chronically in this experience and you're like, man, like every single time I try to go talk to this person, this thing happens, and I just want to be able to be myself. I want to be able to communicate clearly, and I don't know what's blocking me from having this conversation or whatever. We can look at all the abstract associations that are happening and how that's activating this information in the body-mind beyond awareness, and how it's filed in accordance with attachment needs and internal attachment systems, and how experiences of social engagement have, played a role, or, whatever it is. And we can actually go in and start to understand and shapeshift and evolve and transform this. It's also useful for understanding positive and negative triggers. If you're in a certain thing and you keep having this response and you're like, but I'm here and I know I'm fine and everything, but there's, for some reason, this thing triggers me and I don't want it to. Or, using it to use positive triggers in a good way or something. There's so much potential, but it really comes down to understanding the organization of the body-mind so that the power of consciousness can work its magic and come in here and be like, hey, like, I know what's happening, secret's out, body-mind is exposed. Like, yes, I understand the content and connectivity, the organization, the purpose, and the activity in trillions of energetic pathways that are carrying information from all of my life, even if I can't consciously remember all of my life. Like, okay, cool. Now I have, like, all this power to, like, restructure the body-mind, resculpt these pathways, and then have new styles of navigational projections from the body-mind while having a deeper unity with parts of the self, so that parts of the self can be here in a present moment and not in the body-mind projections of navigation that are actually data here now in the body-mind, not the self, that are from moments that aren't happening anymore. And so, in summary, the abstract associations of experiential elements, those experiential elements, the entry level of understanding is the individual stimulus of sensory processing. Everything you see, everything you hear, everything you smell, everything you taste, everything you touch, and then those connections. And then it goes deeper into abstract concepts, certain types of people, certain types of places, certain types of brain-body regulatory activity, certain types of emotions, certain types of stimulus of like nature, in terms of like the seasons of life, daytime, nighttime, 6 a.m., 6 p.m., and what the temperature in the sky and the weather is doing, autumn, spring, summer, fall, when you look at a leaf that's changing color in the autumn, every time you've ever seen leaves change color in the autumn has created data, and that data is being activated and projected into reality beyond awareness. So even when you're not consciously remembering those past experiences, the body-mind is remembering the past experiences so that it can navigate now. And the important thing is that the content and connectivity of the body-mind provide effective navigation, and parts of the self be unified with the self in the present moment, not ostracized from the self or an independent activity of other parts of the self, and not in body-mind projections without being in the full present moment, okay, with this connected with the rest of the self. Okay, I think that's everything. Implicit Revelations Case Study Notes. Experiential elements and the abstract associations of them are a really powerful way to explore navigational patterns in the body-mind which are influenced by the well-being of internal needs and attachment systems. And these navigational patterns also affect the information and activation in the regulatory protocols of the body mind. Okay, over and out. That's all for now.